and listening to this panel discussion on unlocking rural markets, strategies for effective branding and marketing. So it's been more than 20 years, and my rural journey started when I went to honeymoon in Ooty, and my wife said, "Ek dairy milk le aao." And I went to a nearby shop, and I paid him 10 rupees, and he gave me 10 dairy milk. So I said, मैंने 100 रुपया नहीं दिया है, मैंने आपको 10 रुपया दिया है. So he said, आपको भी मैंने 1-1 रुपये का ही चॉकलेट दिया है. तो मैंने read it, it was written daily milk. And that's how my journey started in rural, researching on fake products, spurious, lookalikes and spell-alikes. And that's how I realized that how gullible these villages are, that if brands don't reach the shelves in, at the retail outlets, somebody else will occupy this space. And that's how my rural journey started when I was a professor at D. Montfort University, Leicester UK's Indian campus in Indore, right? So to respect everybody's time, I will just start the panel discussion. We had a good round of discussion before as well, like every panel members do. So to start with, I will understand and ask them to share their rural journey till date in short. So Harish, talking about rural journey and rural experience, right? Where today we don't see rural, right? I personally, when I write articles, I call them distant urbanites. The person who lives in rural, he breathes, eats, watches everything like us. There is nothing called as rural. I call them distant urbanites. So in your rural journey and experience, right, how have you ensured that an out-of-home billboard or a CSR initiative, right, pushes the audience from, by watching on a hoarding to the outlet? Now, if you talk about Mumbai Mahim Causeway, you would see a lift going up and down on a hoarding, and that wins an award, right? But in rural, the market is a bit unorganized. How do you ensure that the out-of-home branding, right, it's pushing the audience to the retail outlets and it results into good sales? Over to you, Harish.
Thank you, Avinash. I think my journey started 20 years back, and since then, I think one of the things which I have realized is the speed of change. I mean, in the yesteryears, we used to do all this van activation or engagement, be it CSR or rural activation or branding. One thing which I think some time back we spoke, how COVID has actually fast-forwarded everything. And I think the speed of change, the change which used to take 10 years, today we are so easily imbibing the change. Be it, just ordering through a Swiggy via app to making UPI payments, it's become far more easy. And same thing has happened in smaller markets. I mean, if you look at rural markets, three things have really drastically changed the entire environment. First is the infrastructure. With the growth of roads, rail networks across the country, the reach has expanded. The second thing is the amount of data which is available. When yesteryears we used to just, based on a couple of people's experience, we used to do the planning and strategizing for the events. Today there is so much of data which is available. And thirdly, I think technology is also influencing the reach of digital in smaller markets, is usually influencing audiences. And I think if I have to look at the journey, I think the speed of change is very important, and I think today we have access to data of almost 640,000 towns and villages to pop strata of 2,000 people, where you can do any kind of a CSR activation or a rural activation. So the access to data is good today. The second thing is I think the evolution of the medium itself has changed. So earlier, we used to only talk about, doing some kind of branding at a Kirana store, or, working with panchayats, or doing this well branding or water tank branding. Today, we are talking about synergies between mediums. So it is no longer only about rural, but also other media options. How digital and rural activation or CSR plays a critical role. So I think these are the two large changes which, Avinash, I feel I have seen through my career.
So with this experience, it's clear that rural is not about taking one media to a media dark pocket, which used to be media dark in past. Today, it's all about through the line campaigns, that you engage a ATL, BTL and digital, and not look at rural customers as customers who are like 1,000 kilometers away, वो आप एक अलग जोग्राफी जैसा देखो उसको, एंड स्टे देयर फॉर मैनी ईयर्स, सो दैट दे सी इट कि ये ब्रांड ने मेरे लाइफ में कुछ चेंज लाया है, बिकम एन एनेबलर इन देयर लाइफ. इट्स जस्ट बिकॉज ही इज़ अ लो इनकम कंज्यूमर ऑडियंस, अब वो रूरल नहीं रहा. कमिंग टू राजेश. Rajesh,
Hello.
I have personally heard, so my grandparents are from Sangamner, a small town near Nasik, which is no more a village. It has transformed into a sugarcane hub, right? Well connected by road. At bus stands, when people reach, अपनी बस का एक सीट पाने के लिए वो जो महाराष्ट्र में उसको लाल डब्बा बोलते हैं, the buses, state transport buses colored as red. So एक commuter है, he is standing at a bus stand, waiting for his bus to come, कि जैसे वो अपना रुमाल डाले और उसको एक सीट मिल जाए, right? Simultaneously, there is a announcement going on by audio wala talking about, the brand. How do you ensure that before catching a seat, he gets engaged with your announcement, right? And, ensures that the message is delivered. Over to you, Rajesh.
Yeah. Good morning to all. Good morning to the fellow panelists. So, Avinash, I mean, if you talk about the announcement system, what we have done is we have created a passenger information system. And this passenger information system is an arrival departure announcement system. So the core content is what the audience wants. And because if you look at the railway announcement system, it's been there for many, many years. If you look at bus stations did not have any announcement systems. So what we did is understanding the psych, where there is a need for such a information. And we have created a passenger information system which will help the audience. So content is something which is psychologically connected and passengers are waiting for. And that's where we have grabbed the attention. And ads are something which are going to be grabbing the attention of the people who are already concentrating. So that's how the media has been made engaging. We have created enough models to attract the attention of the audience. And that's something which we have been doing through our in-house creative team. We work like radio. It's a combination of out-of-home, radio, and digital. This is a merger, we call it, of all three. That's how the media has been created.
So what Rajesh said is similar to an article in Harvard Publishing, that is 4 ways to enter the market. So either a brand knows the product, or the product is unknown to them. Consumer is known or consumer is unknown to them. So if you draw a 4x4 quadrant, he knows his product, but he doesn't know his consumer. So he understood the consumer psyche, right? And that's how he penetrated those markets. So I think that's a very good learning for all marketers, that before entering into a market, know the product, know the consumer. And that's how a sachet made a revolution in rural market. उस घरों में टीवी के ऊपर सारी दवाइयाँ सब कुछ रखा रहता है, बिकॉज टीवी देखते हैं तो दवाई कब लेना उनको याद होता है. हमारे घर जैसे उनके पास वार्डरोब्स एंड शेल्फ्स नहीं होते, राइट? सो दैट्स हाउ दो सैशेज मेड अ वे. बाथरूम आप देखेंगे रूरल में कुछ ज़्यादा शेल्फ नहीं है, सैशे बॉटल रखने को जगह नहीं है शैम्पू का. तो सैशेज played a very good role. Similarly, understanding consumer psyche works well when we talk about rural consumers. Over to Sai. Sai, it's a media, right? And when I was researching in Vidisha and we met a family, they said that my son is studying in Japan, और वो वहाँ से कॉल करके पूछता है कि सास भी कभी बहू थी में उस सीरियल में क्या हुआ, एंड हाउ डू यू डिवाइड द टाइम. तो देरानी एक अलग सीरियल देखती है, जेठानी एक अलग सीरियल देखती है, बाद में वो लोग डिस्कस करते हैं. सो वी ऑल नो दैट द एडवर्टिजमेंट्स एंड movies and serials are reflection of society. What happens is reflected in a particular story. How do you ensure that your content is a reflection of society and it engages more eyeballs? What is your experience in past and present? Can you please share with audience?
Hi, good day to everyone. So, Avinash, as you asked me, so rural markets account for nearly 50%, in terms of weightage, in terms of our currency, which is BARC. And being in and working with a regional brand, I think it's imperative for us to sort of build a connect with these consumers. And a lot of our content sort of tries to reflect the social fabric of society that's present today. I'll give you a classic example. At Sony Marathi, we have a show which is about a farmer girl. And I think it somewhere breaks stereotypes in terms of, you always, even in rural advertising, you generally see imagery of a male farmer in the wall paintings and things like that. So here we have a woman farmer who's sort of taking up a patriarchal role in her family. And she's sort of encouraging and asking people to sort of continue farming in a day and age today, which is very relevant to Maharashtra especially, where a lot of people are selling their farms and moving to cities. Now that sort of impacts the balance in rural areas in terms of food grains and things like that. And the message in the show is very clear that, you need to cultivate your farms rather than selling it off. And even the sort of profession or her education is BSc Agri, where most people today are looking at education in terms of being engineers or doctors or chartered accountants. It's a breath of fresh air when you have someone saying that, I want to be a BSc in agriculture. So the messaging that we try to do is very clear in terms of what we want to capture, not just where I'm working currently, but even in the past. We've sort of tried to bring stories that everyone would relate to, and you would know probably someone who's doing that. For example, we had a show in the past which was about a lady rickshaw driver, and which is something that's very common today. But we tell stories that people relate to. And I think that's one of the key things in grabbing eyeballs, because you find shows that communicate or have a lot of kitchen politics, but I think people want to see real things because it's aspiring and inspirational to them.
Well, thank you so much. So coming to our next question, that today when I go to rural markets, when I was working with Mahindra Tractors as activation head, so every tractor brand used to put the tractor on a trailer, tie it with chains, and reach rural markets, distribute a keychain or a free pen, right? And farmers knew, आज सोनालिका आया है, कल महिंद्रा आएगा, परसों टैफे आएगा, ठीक है? Everybody comes and gives a freebie and they go away, all right? So in your business, right, to attract audience, what is that stickiness factor that कोई आया different करके गया? So in my experience, when we wanted to sell a small tractor which enters into a 3.5 width, orchards में बहुत कम जगह होती है, छोटा सा baby tractor. How did we do? I said, I'm not going to tie this on chain. I want to give it an experience. So there are different types of orchards. We ensured that our agency did an innovation, पूरा replicate किया orchard, artificial grapes, cotton, betel nut, सारे trees लगा दिए, tractor को बांध दिया. So that betel nut or grapes or the fruits was not hero. Hero was that 3.5 width, because it was not. I ensured that with my agency experience, it will not be a brand manager's brief. It will be a brand's brief. 3.5 को hero बनाना है. So in your experience, what are the innovations or what out of the box thing you did that increased traction towards the brand and engaged the audience? Harish.
So I think there are a couple of examples which come to mind, but I think more than doing the activation, it is also about the planning. So, where we need to do such kind of activations, because you need maximum ROIs from the activation which we do. So for Tata Motors, we work with their small commercial vehicle division, which has ACE, Yodha and all these brands. And it has combination of both. Obviously, to get the farm produce from the farmland into the mandis. And there are, as you know, that there are very few points of contacts which they have. So mandi is a very, very critical point which is there. And obviously, some melas which are there. So obviously, for Tata Motors ACE, we looked at all the mandis across the country, and then we filtered, what is the volume, what is the volume which is there, what is the produce which is there. And then we customized sort of the test drives at the mandi itself. We were able to get the farmers, tell them how, the size of the truck will help, how the drive is more efficient, what is the power. So real test drives were there. And I think very interesting at one of the melas, few melas we did was, we actually created, the turf, the way the farmland is, the incline which is there, or the decline which is there, or the roughness of the road. At a mela, we created the entire sort of route there, and the farmers were then given a test ride to actually experience how you will drive the vehicle and what is the power of the vehicle. So I think that was a very different activity which we were able to do.
So the key take from Harish's point is that congregation points play a very important role, because going door to door becomes very difficult and only feasible for FMCG brands doing door to door sampling activation. But in such cases where a farmer, it's a last mile, last touch point is your mandis, APMC mandis, where farmer come and sell their produce, and they get a slip that they will be richer in few days with so many lakh rupees, and that's how they decide their next investment. So congregation point becomes a very important critical part, right? In case of women, the congregation point definitely is Anganwadi, right? Schools become congregation points for brands like Lifebuoy, who can do activation in the schools. So, Rajesh, what innovations have you done? As you said that you understand first the consumers, understand their psyche. So you clubbed it with the announcement, right? Talk about your innovations out of the box strategies in rural with the audio wala. Over to you.
So Avinash, I will talk about your own industry of Mahindra tractors. So expect the unexpected. That's what in our industry, because experiential marketing is all about that. We all talk about, as you rightly mentioned, the brief is very important. Knowing the client, okay. We have put up a ABCDE model in the organization. Very simple, 5 pillars. A for audience, B for brand, C for creativity and concept, D for data, and E for execution. Now, if you take this as a simple approach, if you tie all of them together, you will get innovation. And that's something which we have put as a basic pillar in the organization. And if you keep this, we have done some 3-4 important areas. I would like to stick to Audiola bus stand itself on the innovations which we have done. So one of the key innovation, coming back to your tractor industry. So we created something called, innovative display at a bus station of a tractor. You can't expect a bus station having a tractor display. People want to go to showrooms, people want to go to, go to villages to see some display happening, and, farmer meeting happening where display happens, launch happening. So we actually inaugurated at a bus station a tractor, new model of, this was Sonalika. So audio teaser happening, campaign done for 1 month. Internally we knit it up with the demos, people coming there taking, outside also there was a ground kept, just adjacent, taking them and where they can try the tractor. So you actually building a story where you get advantage for, the brand needs obviously ROI. Every brand is, if they want to invest in marketing, they're looking for ROI. So you grab the attention, you convert and give them ROI. And we did this for many auto products. We've converted, a bus stand into a showroom for Honda two-wheelers during Diwali, and offered schemes and things, and, message going there, offer, because typical villagers come to urban places to buy the products, okay? And, and that's where if they hear that there's a discount happening, they're going to get attracted. And 100%, because many people, still it's a cash market. It's evolving, which we find last 4 or 5 years, COVID has changed many things. But yes, still people, the income is cash. People come and pay cash and buy two-wheelers. That's still on. So if we are able to attract the attention, conversion also happens for brand. Okay. And there is one more innovation we did, recently, for Sony Marathi also, Bhumi Kanya, one of the serial of Sony Marathi. We actually introduced a concept called geofence. Audio wala bus stand, we can make them watch that. I mean, it was a promotional campaign where they wanted people to come and watch the serial. So, and bus stand is a transit place and you have huge audience. And for a brand like Sony, I mean, everybody is a customer there, and the product is targeted at rural. So what we did was, audio happening, same communication happening on the mobile, okay, on Facebook and social media, and they can watch the same teaser, and it's a kind of engagement happening right there, audio plus activation. It's a digital activation. So it becomes a kind of a 360-degree activation, which will re-emphasize and reiterate the call to action.
Great. So I think that's a great thing. All clients present over here, if you keep this ABCD model, right, the brief will be perfect. It will not be a brand manager's brief, but it will be exactly a brand brief. An agency will also, come up with the best innovative solution and launch a through-the-line campaign where not only one media, but there will be many mediums involved, right? Sai, over to you. Out-of-the-box strategy in a channel, like understanding the consumer, and then coming up with something. How do you engage audience that नहीं यार मेरी loyalty सिर्फ KBC को है, मेरी loyalty सिर्फ Sony Marathi को है कि मैं switch on करूँगा तो मैं सिर्फ Sony ही Sony देखूँगा. Your experience, please.
So, unlike popular belief that the FMCG sector is heavily dependent on their distribution system, a channel team is also very heavily dependent on their distribution teams, and we have Subhashri here who heads distribution marketing for us. So we work very closely with them, in terms of understanding two things. One is where the distribution uptake needs an improvement. The second area is where the viewership needs an improvement. Once we sort of identify those markets, I think as the brand marketing team, we generally sort of visit those markets to try and understand what's really available there, meet up with the local cable operators with help from them. That gives us a real sense and perspective because they are the local influencers in a very big way because, coming from the city, we may not have access to homes. But the local cable operator is probably going there every single month to probably, collect fees or the remittance. So that becomes a very important stakeholder in this entire process. Once we've done the initial recce, we go back and, identify what is the activity to be done. And largely for us, I think the most important thing is to drive viewership. So content sampling becomes really important. And one of the innovative things that we've started doing is we've sort of modified the whole experience of a van activation into a mohalla activity. So a mohalla activity is sort of a light version of a canter, if I may call it, where we have an omni that goes into the smaller nook and corners of every village. And it goes with a large screen. So we generally have a pre-publicity that happens saying that the van is going to come to this city. And the identification of the areas happens in conjunction with the distribution team and the LCOs. That's a very important part for us. And once the activity happens, there is, like I said, there is a pre-publicity that happens that the van is coming on so-and-so day at so-and-so place. The next step to that is obviously a door-to-door leaflet distribution, which gives information about, the activity and if there are any actors coming into that place. On the activity day itself, we have around 4 or 5 halls, if possible, in important nukkads or mohallas in those areas. Where we gather people because they are already aware of such an activity happening. Like I said, the local operator is also present because in case someone is not subscribed to the channel, then you have the Spock right there to sort of reach out. We obviously put out our content pieces in terms of smaller capsules of 5-10 minutes of the show, which sort of induces sampling. Then obviously if the content is good, people go back and start watching those shows. Apart from that, like you said, pens, gifts are still a draw. So, we generally have a lucky draw or we play games with the people who are there. So, in a nutshell, we're giving them a very small funfair sort of an experience, which sort of elevates the brand experience more than anything else. You go back saying that, this brand that I see on television has actually come very close to me. It helps in sort of keeping the entire system also lubricated in the sense because even the local cable operators felicitated there. So, the entire system is working in tandem. So it's like just putting all the wheels together. And I think that's been a huge innovation we do. The other thing that I would like to highlight is the jatras that happen in the villages. Now that's really critical in places where, in the urban areas, people are not so starstruck anymore. I mean, people are, but not so much. But in these markets, when you take down an artist to the nooks and corners, I think it makes a big difference to them to be seeing them in person, especially in the case of mytho shows. We spoke about this while we were discussing this session, and even today when we take artists from our mytho shows, especially in something like the Ashadi Ekadashi Wari at Pandharpur, people come down there and really, they cry seeing those artists, they touch their feet, because for them it's almost like the person who's playing the role is God himself and has come to, close to them. I would like to take this opportunity to highlight another activity that we did, which was during the Ashadi Ekadashi itself last year. So we recreated the temple on wheels because Warkaris walk more than 350 kilometers from different places. So the van took halts and we had the idols placed, which was a replica of the temple where they could come and sort of offer prayers. And outside we had our screens running our mytho content. So it was a very symbiotic thing that happened in terms of having darshan while you're walking, and also taking a break and watching some content which captures that sort of sentiment at that point in time.
So take from what Sai said is your channel is most important, distribution team is most important, then giving an experience, and what you see on TV when you take it on floor to the last mile and through a congregation point helps a lot in connecting the dots. Coming to most important point, we have been talking about Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana and taking back to an advertisement of Hero कि ये सड़क गांव से शहर जाती है, वही सड़क शहर से गांव भी आती है, right? But there are always infrastructure challenge. TV है पर बिजली नहीं है, right? सड़क है लेकिन फिर भी पहुंच नहीं पा रहे हैं, right? And rural execution is all about taking a manpower challenges होते हैं, infrastructure challenges होते हैं. How do you ensure that the message is delivered, message reaches the audience in spite of these challenges? Any one of you can add to this?
I think I'd like to start off with an experience that happened. So in one of these activities, we had everything set and, we were pretty much expecting a large turnout for the event. Unfortunately, at that time, the water supply was restored. So everyone went to fill in water, and we really didn't have a crowd at the event. So as much as you may want to plan, these sort of things can always throw a spanner in the works. And I think this is not something that you can really account for unless, you sort of pre-plan for these sort of things. The other thing that happens, and in the previous session we spoke about climate change. The unpredictability of a climate these days is also a huge factor, especially if you're doing outdoor activations. Unseasonal rains or extreme heat, I think that impacts manpower. At the end of the day, even your promoters or the boys who are running the activity are humans after all. And the number of hours of the activation have drastically reduced because afternoon time you don't find anyone these days. So I think that becomes a really big challenge in terms of planning activations, because consistency is going to be the key in these sort of activities. And I think that becomes a little bit of a task given these factors.
See, this media, audio wala bus stand which we have created, is basically we have understood that rural has got a lot of challenges, like what you mentioned, the, phenomenal challenges, power, internet, you name it in terms of manpower, and that's where this whole media has been created. The audio wala bus stand, if you look at it, it's a very, very important lifeline application for state transport. It has got very high availability, arrival, departure, announcement getting managed on a build top rate basis. They have not invested, it's all invested by us. And we have given them even a power backup, and it's all running almost for 18 hours non-stop. And the speakers are all controlled, everything managed from a central location. Even the architecture which we have developed is a disconnected architecture. You have a server and a local device there. Even if internet is not there, still the announcement continues. Still the advertisement gets relayed. Wow. So this works I upload here, the local device connects and downloads and plays locally. So given this huge challenges which we still have, forget rural, urban still has got so many infrastructure challenges, in telecom. So telecom related challenges are there everywhere. So given this internet connectivity is very important. And again, we have given Vigil app. That's an app which helps in monitoring. Every person sitting there continuously around the clock, the entire infrastructure is managed, tracked, and we have local SLAs with local partners to replace the hardware. And, give high availability to customer, because ultimately we are running, and we are also running advertisement there, and, we are accountable to every advertiser there, and then to the state transport. So infrastructure creation and managing that infrastructure is key to success in rural. Otherwise, how much ever you may do in all activations, we see this, without technology support today, it's definitely a tough and uphill task. And I think backup definitely required to make it foolproof. But yes, we have limited funds and resources. So that's where your model is very important.
If I may.
Yep.
So Avinash, just to add to what Sai and Rajesh both spoke, I think whatever planning or campaign we have, ultimately execution is the key. And we all know the challenges which Sai also spoke on ground. They can be as diverse as, water shortage. I think execution is equal to experience. With experience, I think as an agency partner, I think it is our role also to ensure that, we are able to map those challenges which are going to come up. At some point in time, we can at least get it 80-90% right, and 10% might be wrong. And I think the second part is also the planning. I'll share one example. Just recently, we concluded an activation for Tata Motors Spare Parts Division, where, we were given the challenge to do the store activation with some kind of branding as well as some kind of literature to all the spare parts shops across the country, especially in the rural market. 7,000 shops we had to cover. Initially, we started with 5 teams, and then we had a learning. I mean, as you implement, you also get a learning that what is the phase and what is the timeline which is taken. So we moved the number of teams to 20, and we were able to complete that project well in time. So I think experience as well as planning becomes very, very critical for a successful execution of any activity.
True. So the key takeaway is that have a alternative backup. If you're taking a technology, ensure that you give full technology support. The checks are to be there at your end. जैसे साई के example में water shortage है, and mostly my experience in rural is that weather कभी हमारे साथ होता नहीं है. कभी बहुत ज़्यादा धूप है, बहुत ज़्यादा ठंड है, और rural की planning वैसी होनी चाहिए as per the season. I would also like to invite our agency, my erstwhile agency, Preeti, are you there? Yeah, okay. So can somebody give a mic to Preeti? So, weather is never with us. So can you just share your execution challenge experience, right? You're leading an agency, you've been part of with the Mahindra tractors as well, right? So how do you overcome these challenges?
So Avinash, yes, with our experience and into rural, weather is totally unpredictable, and depending upon the weather conditions, like if you talk about summers, it is always what we do not to hamper the activity hours that we put in and to communicate, deliver the client message to the TG. We divide the activity period into 2 halves. We start early in the morning, maybe at 5 o'clock, and the first set of activity in the morning, second set of activity late evening. That is where the client also cooperates with us. The sales team, on-ground team also understands and cooperates with us. But yes, we have to face all these unpredictable weather conditions. So summers, rains, and winters, accordingly we plan our activity. The timing of the activity is planned in such a way that the activity hours doesn't get hampered. The other one of the challenge is manpower challenge, which I would like to highlight. Yes, that is also something very unpredictable, but we do have our backup team ready. we have an extra team, even if the manpower, we need to replace it, with a minimum lead time, we take and we replace the manpower as and when required. So purely planning and experience, it is a pivotal role that plays in
So as,
handling all these challenges.
Okay, thanks. So as Harish said that, multiple teams hone chahiye.
Yeah.
Rural activation is all about how much time you have and how many teams you will deploy.
Yes. So
Team
there are
Mahindra
some brands, there are some products which are seasonal. Like one of our clients, Bayer Crop Science, which are very seasonal in nature. The activity when we do, we get only 15 days or maximum 30 days cycle to deliver our message to the farmers. So the objective is we deploy more number of teams to cover more area and deliver and target maximum customers.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Preeti. So last question is, so much plan. Rural team reached that village. They used to give us missed call. STD का नंबर आ गया, मतलब टीम पहुंच गई है. शाम को एक STD का मिस कॉल आता था, मतलब टीम ने आज का दिन काम खत्म कर दिया. The day is ended or that village is activated. Even if I had to do a wall painting, my painter used to stand in front of a camera with today's newspaper, and I used to zoom and check आज का date है, इतनी wall painting आज हुई है सर. And today, sitting at my system, I can check how many wall paintings have been done. The painter has a Java application. He clicks the photograph, a date, time, and GPS location comes. I know that so many villages, so many wall paintings, so many shop boards have been deployed, right? So my question to the panel is, how do you measure campaign reach, success, lead generation, and conversion in your case? So Sai.
So I think for us, the gold standard continues to be our ratings. So we obviously get our ratings every Thursday. So while we might work in a particular market, we don't get individual city-specific or town-related data. So we look at cluster data. So if clusters have shown spikes, it's obviously a good point for us. But beyond that, I think we also look at brand scores, brand recall scores, brand perception studies, because these happen. Brand tracks keep happening, every quarterly basis in organizations. The other important thing for us, like I mentioned earlier, is the sort of feedback we get from our distribution teams. Is there an uptake in the numbers? Earlier, we also used to do, given data privacy laws now, it's a little difficult to do, but earlier we used to have something very basic, like you said, missed calls, but we used to ask the people congregated at the activity to give missed calls, and there used to be lucky draws out of those missed calls. So we used to get an average number of people that turned up. So we would gauge that an activity was not done well, if there were fewer people and thereby fewer missed calls. And there was a gratification at the end. So most probably everyone was giving missed calls, and obviously we could look at duplicated and unduplicated numbers from that and pick a winner. So there are obviously multiple ways, like I said, to kind of gauge the effectiveness of it. But if you ask me one gold standard, that's obviously the ratings.
Ratings.
Yeah, Avinash, we have done an interesting innovation here. As you rightly mentioned, the challenge is one. Rural being at a distant place, customers cannot reach there and see the campaign or the audio ad running. They are dependent on the regional teams to actually listen to the ad and give a feedback. Again, a technological innovation which we have brought in is a IVR. You can actually connect to a bus stand at the scheduled time at which your ad is going to run, and you can listen to the bus stand live. Okay. So if you're 10:10 आपका ad बज रहा है, तो 10 minute 8 minute connect करो, and you can listen to your bus stand live with different extensions given to different bus stations. So you can listen to your ad. That's using, again, technology. People can actually validate if the ad is actually running. That's actual delivery. And second, we are talking about the measurement and impact. So that's where we recently did this. Being a mass medium measurement, how much ever you may want, there is always going to be a challenge. But we recently did this about 2 to 3 years back. We did a lot of work on this, introducing this geo-reach concept, where many people have done that in the past, but we are trying to further improve on this, is how do I get my campaign measured in terms of people standing at the bus station, how many people heard the ad, what was the call to action. So the geofence concept which we created seems to be, working for many of the FMCG brands and telecom brands. And also we did for entertainment industry. So what is, again, the same example is making people, you hear the audio ad, call a teaser where they can actually come out with a direction to go to a Facebook page and either engage and give a feedback, or if they can like, they comment, and give some data and, get some instant vouchers. You can actually generate inquiries, okay, and measure a campaign success for auto companies, for people who are into any consumer durable. This becomes a very effective way of measuring every penny spent. You are getting immediate returns. And second is obviously the 360-degree engagement which we have created Bus Stand as a communication engagement and experience model. Same way, call to action, you display product happening, you drive inquiries. So depending on what kind of model which you want, we have created multiple approaches for monitoring and tracking. And this, I feel, over a period, this integrated approach of measurement is going to work for rural. And technology will play a very vital role for that. Yeah.
Thanks.
I think what Sai spoke at the start, the first party data, which is performance, is the best measurement. Few years back, you must be also aware, it was all about selling the stock and that's the performance. We were given a task here, 10 ton dalda बेचना है, some few years back, और वो था कि यार 3-4 महीने में डालडा बिकना चाहिए. So I think that is the first part, but I think the evolution of technology is tremendous. Some of the things which we are doing in the space, because we are a ad tech company and we are a startup, the things which we do, we have something, a platform called Immersive, which covers 640,000 towns, villages across the country. We cover each and every 20,000 plus pin codes in the city. We can do consumer segmentation se lekar ke the number of eyeballs reach, everything is available on the platform. For some of our clients, we also integrate, because you also have to learn from other mediums. So we use digital a lot for out of home. We do post-campaign evaluation where we geofence a particular area where the billboards are put up, and we measure how many mobile phones pass through that particular point, and we are able to correct our campaigns during the campaign itself. So we know right from the age group to number of eyeballs, the gender, the time spent, the type of devices which have passed through that geofence, and we are able to then create measurement for our clients. So I think we all need to be open to newer things, technology especially in any space, and it is not only bonded to metros, but those things obviously the cost implications for rural might be huge currently, but then over a period of time, I think those are the possibilities we all as marketers should be open to look at.
Thank you so much. So to summarize the entire thing, your local influencers, amplification and avoiding local influencers is very important. Like what Sai said, in HDFC Bank, when semi-urban rural vertical started, we used to do Samman Samaroh. कि मंडी पे activation करना है of a bank, right? You need loans. सम्मान समारोह कृषि का जिसने बहुत अच्छा काम किया है, वहाँ उसको सर्टिफिकेट दिया, सम्मान समारोह हुआ. Because it's rural is all about ego massaging of the village head. Village head है या कोई particular influencer है, उसका सम्मान करना बहुत important होता है, right? Use of technology in rural is very important because it's all about through the line campaigns today. It's not about only one hoarding, one newspaper or one radio channel. Engagement of more than one medium at one point of time is important. Keeping a backup, because weather will never support you in your rural activations, right? So this is all that we take away from this session, and over to audience for FAQs. Any questions, please, to the panel?
Thank you. I'm Subhashri. I had, like Sai said, I had distribution marketing for Sony. So I think one point, more than a question, what I want to add is that this rural marketing has become a larger terminology today. So in between the urban and the rural is that small town, which is an equally important belt with all the challenges of both sides. So, and we have done a lot of activities in that space as well. And I think it's very important for any and all brands, whether it is the content side of the business, it is the FMCG side of the business, it is products like, tractors or, small vehicles, the two-wheeler segment, yeah, and the newly launched electric two-wheeler category. For all of them, I think that small town is an extremely important belt. And just to take away a couple of examples, we've done a lot of activations as well. I saw before you joined also, a town like Sangli, place like Sangli, yeah, good combination of both, gives a lot of traction in terms of brand reach, recall, stickiness, etc. The other thing which COVID allowed us to do and helped us tap this category was we did a brilliant use of digital and the actual connect, hyperlocal connect as we call it. We did what is called Nukkad Live. We've done lots of activity with the Marathi team, with other activities, with other channel teams. So I think that's one thing which I strongly feel that it's a larger term. Just wanted to say that.
So, is there anybody from Sri Lanka here in the audience? Okay. So, with a short of time, I've just got 2 signals that we can break now. And to all clients, agencies, there's a message I want to share. There's a line written by Mr. Rajkumar Jha, who is also known as, the father of rural advertising. He said once that, ki rural sab kare, rural kare na koi. But in the second line, I would just want to edit, agar aap man se rural kare, to rural na hoye. Right? So, don't be a fly-by-night operator that you will go do an activity 1 month and then take away their money, take away their everything. Become an enabler in rural audience life and stay there for a long term. Create a channel with the help of the local people only and not transport your channel from urban, or a metro city to rural. And I'm sure that you will get a good success, right? Thank you so much, Sai, Rajesh and Haresh, right? Being part of this wonderful session on rural.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.